Welcome back to Probie to Pro. In today's video, we are going to talk about what happens when you get rerouted, how you find out, what rules you need to know, and of course, what it means for your paycheck. Your main resources and references for reroutes are contract sections 2, 9, and 12, and the scheduling handbook, and also your SWAPA contract admin committee. As always, we will link to those in the notes. All right, so you're mid-pairing and you get reassigned. What happens? First, you'll likely be notified via a crew hub notification or a phone call from scheduling. An ops agent could also notify you in person, but that's less common these days. Acknowledge the change via crew hub, CWA, or the phone call with scheduling. We, as always, recommend using crew hub unless there's something that you actually need to discuss with crew scheduling. When you're reassigned, you should immediately ask yourself, is this legal? Crew scheduling has to comply with FAR 117 duty and block limits, as well as contractual duty and block limits defined in Section 12 Delta. As always, double check for yourself that everything looks okay. When you're looking at these tables in Section 12 Delta, especially in the middle of a chaotic day, it can get a little complicated. Take your time and don't be rushed. Ask for clarification if you need it. It is your joint responsibility, along with crew scheduling, to not accept an illegal assignment. Before acknowledgement, the new assignment as scheduled must comply with the reassigned columns in the duty time and block time limit tables in 12 Delta. However, during execution, you must comply with the limits in the actual or executed columns. Remember that your maximum flight duty period and contractual duty day limits are dependent on your local domicile report time. So let's say you're flying a midway trip with an 0500 report on day 2 in LaGuardia. That's 0400 Chicago time, meaning that your maximum scheduled duty time is 12 hours at notification, and your maximum scheduled block time is 7.5 hours at the time of notification. Here's an example of a reassignment in Crew Hub. This first screenshot shows 11 hours of duty and 5 hours 35 minutes block time. Perfectly legal. This second screenshot, though, shows 14 hours 40 minutes of duty time, well over the contractual limit of 12 hours. It is important to note that Crew Hub does not provide any indication of whether or not a reassignment is legal, so don't hesitate to double check the contract or ask for a crew scheduling supervisor. In addition to block and duty limits, the reassignment must also comply with the minimum connection times defined in CBA Section 9, Foxtrot 10. That section specifies at least 30 minutes before a domestic leg, 45 before an international leg, and 60 minutes before an ETOPS leg. Here are some examples of connection times in Crew Hub. This first one shows legal connection times of 2 hours, 45 minutes, and 1 hour, 10 minutes. Perfectly legal for these domestic legs. The second one shows an illegal connection time of only 20 minutes, less than the 30-minute minimum. Finally, minimum rest requirements are defined in CBA Section 12 Foxtrot. At the time of notification, scheduled rest must be at least 11 hours. However, minimum actual rest during execution is 10 hours. More rest is also required after flights that block in later than 0200 domicile time, so check the contract for those details. If you're on the line and wondering what you're legal for, you can check CWA, crew scheduling, ACARS message, read the contract, or call crew scheduling. Okay, one more thing before we get to pay. If you're on the line and your next flight cancels, what do? Read the contract, of course. Take a look at Section 12 November 3, which basically says the company has 2 hours from the original departure time or the time of cancellation, whichever is later, to reassign you after a cancellation. If you are not reassigned within 2 hours, or if you are within 90 minutes of your contractual duty day limit, you may self-release from the duty period or request a company-provided hotel. We normally are not required to be phone contactable during a trip. However, if you self-release after a cancellation, you must remain phone contactable for 30 minutes. Likewise, you must remain phone contactable for 30 minutes after receiving a hotel assignment. All right, here's the fun part. Immediately after you figure out if you're eligible for a reassignment, you'll start wondering how much it's going to pay. Before we get to that, though, quick sidebar on rigs and overrides. We'll talk about rigs and overrides in a later video, but for now, all you need to know is that rigs provide minimum pay protection for unproductive days and trips, and overrides provide additional pay for extenuating circumstances. The most common override you'll see in conjunction with reassignments is leg change override, which generally pays an additional 50% of the leg credit anytime you fly a leg that was not originally scheduled. For example, after landing in San Diego, you get a reassignment notification. Originally, you were scheduled to go to Sacramento, but now you are going to Kansas City. Let's say that leg, the new leg, pays 4 trips. Since the San Diego to Kansas City leg was not originally scheduled, you will be paid an additional 2 TFP on top of the new leg credit. As I said, LCO, or leg change override, is usually a 50% override, but in some cases it is 100%. If you're reassigned before the first leg of a pairing and the new first leg pushes before the original, that pays 100%. If the last leg on the last day is changed and you block in later than originally scheduled, that also pays 100%. If it's not the last day, but the new leg blocks in more than 3 hours later than originally scheduled, that pays 100%. Later on in this series, we're going to talk in more detail about our pay system, including rigs and overrides. But in the meantime, those are explained in detail in the scheduling handbook. The main thing to remember in reference to pay is simple. I get paid the greater of my original pairing or what I actually flew. If there are multiple changes to a trip during a major weather event, for example, don't look at the middle iterations. You only look at the difference between what you actually flew and the original. There are a few notable exceptions to leg change override. One is a diversion. If you divert during a leg on your original pairing, that leg is not eligible for LCO. However, the new recovery leg is. If you're scheduled to deadhead, but then you are promoted to operate the flight, that leg pays LCO. However, the opposite is not true if you are originally scheduled to operate, but you get reassigned to deadhead on the same flight, that does not pay LCO. There are also some exceptions for reserve pilots. For all the details on LCO, please refer to the compensation section of the contract, it's section 2, or the SWAPA scheduling handbook. The contract section 2 Juliet shows all the details about LCO and other overrides. Some overrides are presented on the trip sheet, but others, including LCO, only show up on the payroll report. Okay, that's a leg change override in a nutshell, but let me reiterate 2 important points. 1, in all cases, you will be paid the greater of what was scheduled or what you actually flew. And 2, the payroll report is the only comprehensive breakdown of pay, including overrides. Our pay system is complex. I still haven't figured it out myself. Fortunately, your contract admin committee is here to help. But please, please do not call them immediately to ask what your trip will pay. If you get reassigned, you will likely see audit required at the bottom of your trip sheet. When FlightOps Payroll has completed the audit, which is a manual process, that will change to audit complete. Please wait to see audit complete before reaching out to contract admin with questions. Again, please don't call them to ask what your trip will pay. Wait for the pairing details page to show audit complete, then run the SWAPA Pay audit tool. If you still have questions, email contract admin if there's a disagreement between the company audit and the SWAPA audit. Please save phone calls to contract admin for time-critical issues. Okay, that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.